In this video, we're going to have a look at Teach English for specific purposes, and in particular, developing a learning program in ESP. Let's have a look at identifying the roles for which the learner is preparing for. In line with all that we have discussed in the previous videos, the starting point for planning your learning program is needs analysis. Looking at the students' learning needs, that is the purpose for which they will use English, and this will involve some questions which will help you narrow the field, such as what is the specific purpose for which you're learning English? In what vocation or profession will you use English? In what role will you use English? What social contexts will this role take place? Is it going to be commerce, environmental, vocational, or institutional? A needs analysis will require collaboration and cooperation with all stakeholders. And these might include, but not limited to, staff at a variety of levels in the workplace, clients of the workplace, management of the workplace, trainers, industry standards bodies. Training will need to reflect the prescribed industry standards, and stakeholders will also, of course, include learners or students. Specific fields may include, but not be limited to, the wide-ranging list of topics found in our section 2.4 of the chapter that we had a look in the previous videos. If you find yourself faced with the situation of a group or class of students needing language development in a variety of ESPs, an approach referred to as experiential learning programs can assist in program development. In brief, experiential learning programs ensure that learners are engaged in real-life activities conducted in English. It is this real-life activity that provides the stimulus and direction for language development. For example, learners may be engaged in a work experience program, volunteer work, employment, mainstream study, a social group, or community service organization. The possibilities are endless. Any real-life involvement in which language is used in some way will highlight gaps in knowledge and therefore indicate necessary areas of learning. And the role of the teacher, where the students are pursuing different topical or task focuses, is to coach the students in independent learning skills, setting learning goals, developing plans for reaching those goals, reflecting on real-life communication and learning experiences, and planning next steps in learning. Classroom time is therefore spent not on language learning as such, but on promoting the process for continued learning. Let's look now at identifying the specific tasks and texts involved in the role. When the field and social contexts have been identified and defined, you can begin by analysing the role in terms of the tasks that will be completed in English and the texts with which the individual will have to deal, or the interactions in which they will have to participate. Having identified specific tasks and texts, you will engage in text analysis to determine the structural and linguistic features that are intrinsic to each genre indicated. For example, if the role demands report writing, you will analyse samples of authentic reports from the field. Listing structural features, aspects of grammar, specific vocabulary, aspects of spelling, punctuation, and pronunciation that will likely be in need of development. You have already practiced this in Unit 2, Chapter 2, Analyse and Teach English Language, so you'll be familiar with the skill. Let's ground this with a real-life example. This example is not a complete picture, but is sufficient to illustrate the information we're seeking that guides the development of the learning program. So let's have a look here. It says, Eduardo has considerable experience working as a hotel concierge in his home country of Brazil. He wants to gain employment in a major hotel in Australia and needs to upgrade his skills. So what are the tasks that may be typical for a hotel concierge in Australia? Well, we've got provide information to hotel guests, give advice or guidance to hotel guests, give assistance to hotel guests, lead a team, so form, train and nurture a strong team, which may include assistant concierges, porters, commissioners, and valet parking attendants, and giving them instructions, explaining situations, explaining contingencies, encouraging, providing correction, and developing positive working relationships with suppliers. What kinds of texts will a concierge create or use? We've got brochures, schedules and timetables, and also directories. And let's have a look at some of the macro skills that are most used in this role. We've got listening and speaking. And finally, what lexical fields are indicated by the role? So topical areas introducing specific vocabulary will introduce hotel services, entertainment, recreation facilities, restaurants, transport, sightseeing and luggage. So how do we create a learning plan? From this initial list, you can create a learning plan, and you can also refer to chapter 11, which is design a syllabus, for a detailed description of this process. But there are three main things that we need to do. So we're going to first of all define a series of learning outcomes, for example, giving information to guests about local attractions, sequence learning outcomes to ensure a logical progression, and finally allocate an appropriate time frame for each learning outcome to be achieved. Your time frame should fit in with the overall time that you have to teach the course. Identify and or create learning activities to develop English skills required for specific purposes. You'll also need to gather and develop materials. Now that you have a plan, you'll need to identify and or create resources for use in learning activities, and remember to use authentic materials as much as possible. However, take the time to check if some of the many published resources might fulfill some of your needs, particularly audio-visual recordings of interactions. And finally, you're going to have to evaluate the program. So a learning program is a work in progress, constantly under review to ensure that it continues to meet the needs of the students. Sources that feed into the process of evaluating programs include results of formative student assessment and also feedback from stakeholders. And stakeholders who can give helpful feedback include learners, teaching colleagues, ESL and content experts, workplace supervisors and workplace colleagues. Mechanisms for gathering feedback include surveys, interviews, both formal and informal, and progress reports. Feedback is often expressed in general terms, but we're particularly interested in checking that lessons are appropriate to learners, activities, resources, syllabus and curriculum, monitoring strategies, feedback strategies, chosen genres, and model texts are also appropriate to learners. In addition to gathering feedback about the effectiveness of training, it is important to ensure that any practical or workplace component is also running smoothly and that both learners and supervisors are being adequately supported in the process. Responding to feedback can at times contribute to the development of a resource that is needed in the workplace. In a management-focused ESP program, it emerges that there was a need for a template for writing committee papers. The ESL teacher, in the consultation with the ESP course participant, developed a template which facilitated the efficient and effective construction of committee reports. Management were very happy with this outcome. Value added ESP training. Let's have a look now at suggested reading. So OR 2002 has edited an excellent volume of English for Specific Purposes, published by TESOL in Virginia, of case studies describing 12 ESP programs, 6 university-based and 6 workplace-based. Each of the ESP providers give details of the distinctiveness of their programs in terms of the mode of provision, staffing, development of the program, sourcing materials, learning activities, and some evaluation of the success of the program. This sharing of experience is a life breath of teaching, and these case studies prompt us to think about best practice and inspire creativity in the planning and delivery of ESP programs. English for Specific Purposes is a term describing highly specialized and contextualized English language instruction that will likely be included within or alongside a mainstream training program or workplace. ESP is a powerful way to meet the real-life needs of people preparing for employment, seeking employment, and is essential for their long-term success in employment. An ESL teacher who can also teach the skills of a particular vocation or profession is a valuable specialist. An ESL teacher who can work collaboratively with content specialist teachers and trainers is a valuable team member. In today's globalized workplace, ESP should be an integral part of every vocational and professional training program.